Hey Wheaton North, it's Mrs. Terada here. This is the first video for our unit in stoichiometry. Stoichiometry is a really funky word that has a simple meaning. If you have a balanced equation, you're going to be able to use that balanced equation to predict how many grams or moles of each reactant you would have to mix together to make a certain amount of product. Or vice versa. If you have a certain amount of product you need to make, for example, a chemistry teacher setting up a lab for 15 classes, we need to know how many liters of chemicals we need so all of you can have all of the supplies you'll need. So we need to do a little math and go backwards and calculate how much of the reactants we're going to need to make all of those chemicals for you. People do this in industry all the time. If you bake, you're doing it in baking all the time. So we're going to kind of introduce you into this idea really slowly with a non-chemistry example. And in fact, we are going to use a baking example. So we've got this cute little girl here. She has I've simplified the cooking recipe a little bit, mostly so it fits on one line. And you'll notice I wrote it like a chemical equation. I did that on purpose because we're going to be using chemical equations for the rest of this unit. But for her recipe, she needs 2½ cups of flour, 1½ cups of sugar, 2 eggs, and 2 cups of chocolate chips. And she mixes all those together and she bakes it, and she's going to make 36 cookies. She's got a huge party she's prepping for. Apparently she needs to make 108 cookies. Pause the video and figure out how many eggs that means she's going to need. Alright, hopefully you actually paused the video and made this a true learning experience for yourself, and you've figured out with your own brain that she needs 6 eggs. That's great. Like I said before in my class, there are lots of ways to do this math, so some of you probably approached it one way versus another way, but we're going to ask you from now on in this unit to approach it with proportions, just like you've been doing. So if you look at this proportion, you'll see it's very familiar with what we were using in the mole unit. The left side is information from the problem. They're asking you to convert one number to another. So it's your given would be 144 cookies. Your goal would be X number of eggs. Now the right side looks a little bit different. In the mole unit it said get something from your mole sentence, and you had 3 choices: 1 mole, the molar mass, and 6.02 times 10 to the 23 molecules, and you had to pick 2 of those things to put in the proportion. Now the known information that you have is from your balanced equation, so you probably will have more than 3 things to choose from. In this case we have 5 things to choose from, but what you choose still works the same way. You've got to match your given unit. So take a moment and try and set up a proportion for solving this problem. This time she needs to make 144 cookies, not 108. How many eggs would she need? Alright, so hopefully you paused the video and figured out your own proportion. This is what it should have looked like. 144 cookies is her given. She's trying to figure out how many eggs she needs, so that's her given and her goal. And then these numbers are from the balanced equation. So the balanced equation says to make 36 cookies, I need 2 eggs. So this is the proportional relationship that we know. And we have to keep the proportion the same between 144 and however many eggs she needs. It has to be the same as 36 to 2. So you cross multiply and you do the math and you figured out that she needed 8 eggs. Alright, doesn't seem so hard, right? Let's try it one more time. She still needs to make 144 cookies. This time, how many cups of sugar is she going to need to mix? So again, pause the video, set up your proportion, and then I'll flash the one up so you can check your work. Alright, here it is. 144 cookies is her given. X cups of sugar is her goal. From the balanced equation, she's going to pick cookies for the top because she started with her goal was cookies, so 36 cookies. And her given was cookies. And then her goal is sugar, so she's going to pick that one for her bottom on the right side of the proportion. Cross multiply, solve for x. 6 cups of sugar is what she would need. So she would have to mix her 8 eggs, her 6 cups of sugar. She would have to do the same math for her chocolate chips and her flour. And if she mixed all of those things together and baked it, she'd get 144 cookies. We're going to do the same thing for the rest of the unit, but with balanced equations. Your first worksheet you need to do starts you off with another non-chemistry example with sandwiches this time instead of cookies. Please take the time to practice setting up the proportion, showing your units in your proportion. I know many of you can do that worksheet just by looking at it and doing the math in your head. That is not the purpose of that worksheet. The purpose of that worksheet is to have you become professionals at proportion. So then when we switch you to the chemistry stuff, the balanced equation stuff, it might not be as innate for you to understand. It'll be easier for you to set up those proportions. All right, good luck, thanks, and we'll see you in class.